Smartphones already have replaced some of your gadgets, like your camera or your watch, but this one here has a lot more to offer. It has a thermal camera which lets you see heat to replace your thermostat, and a FLIR camera if you have one. It has a 8800 mAh battery, so it can work as a power bank, and it has Harman speakers, which means you can use it, well, as a speaker. And that's not all. It is IP69K water and dust resistant, which means it can withstand high pressure jets. It has a glove mod and some funky features that I'll get into in a bit. The phone is called Blackview BL9000 PRO, and I have been using it for a month now. The question is, who needs all of this? Instead of explaining why the thermal camera is useful, let me tell you a real story that happened to me a few days ago. I got home and felt the floor was a bit warm even though it is already spring. For context, I have floor heating. I didn't think about it too much and I thought maybe the neighbors were still heating their room, but then I decided to use the thermal camera on the phone, which shows the heat map of the scene. And I realized the floor was actually hot and I could even find the source. Long story short, I found out that despite the fact that I turned the heating off, the radiator was still working and wasting energy. So I turned it off from the central control. I got back and the problem was solved. Or in another use case, you may be aware that I compare phones, and one of the important factors is the thermal and heat distribution. You may have noticed I already used the phone in a comparison video. I also used it for checking body temperatures and a few times when I was cooking. In all these scenarios, I could potentially use a thermostat, but I don't always have a thermostat in my pocket, and that's the whole point of a mobile phone. They combine multiple tools into one. The phone's thermal camera is Lepton 3.5, which gives you a resolution of 120 by 160. You also have the FLIR Pro app installed on it, which we use to get only on cat phones, which has a mode to boost the resolution even higher. The FLIR Pro app has problems like the refresh rate is really bad and the overlay of the image and thermal image is not properly aligned. Before we dig deeper into the review, I should do a disclaimer that Blackview has sent me this device for review before the release. But since I live in Austria and I'm a content creator, I have to pay income taxes on products that I get, which, spoiler alert, are going to be super expensive. I only accepted this phone because I do need it to improve the battery test that I do. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. This phone looks like it is built like a tank. It is big and chunky, has an 8800 mAh battery, and feels heavy in hand. It is as if you attach a rugged armor case and a power bank to Galaxy S24 Ultra. Whenever I bring it to parties, everyone wanna hold it and make comments about how big it is. It also has some entertainment value, like you can play Who is the Hottest with your friends using the FLIR app. Of course, the novelty kind of fades out after a few tries, but I should admit I kind of got used to the heaviness over time as I'm using this phone for 3 weeks already. It has a 120 watt charger in the box, which claims to charge the phone in 1 hour, but you know how these fast chargers works. When the battery is empty, they actually charge quite fast, but when the battery is fuller, they are slower. The shape of the phone has an advantage in that you can just leave it like this on any surface, and since it's big, it is better for heat management and also offers 1.2 meters drop protection plus IP69K. Most phones that you have, even on the high end, have IP68 or 67, which is enough for a customer device. This one is an industrial grade, which can be useful if you have a special job like a firefighter, work in a factory, live in a very cold or very warm environment, or maybe in areas where you may get sandstorms often. I personally need it when I go to summits or going skiing in winter where the temperatures can easily drop to -20 Celsius. The charging place is sealed and you need to use the thingy that comes with the phone or any card to open the SIM card tray. Another perk of having a chunky phone is that the buttons are extremely clicky and satisfying to use. The fingerprint scanner is on the side, which I prefer a million times over on-screen fingerprint scanners, something that you can find on Xperia phones too. The other thing it has in common with Sony phones is the notification LED, even though Xperia got rid of it on Mark V. You can customize the fingerprint, so each finger opens a different app. For example, now I customize it to open the AnTuTu test, because why not? You also have a function key on the left side, which you can program to do different things. Here I assigned it to double tap to open the camera, so whenever I double tap the function button on the left side, it opens the camera. Also, it has a face unlock which works very well. As I said, one of the reasons it's so big is because of the 8800 mAh battery. Most phones come with 4000 to 5000 mAh battery, so this one has basically two batteries stacked. In a day in the life scenario, when I use the phone, it often lasts 3 days, and usually on the third evening, I have to charge the phone. I think the phone could potentially last longer if it were not because of high default brightness. The phone is really bright, frankly too bright for my eyes, and I prefer it if it was a bit dimmer. On the other hand, for outdoor use, the phone is not as bright as it should be, and also the auto brightness is usually a few seconds behind. It also has a crazy loud speaker, which results in more battery consumption. I found myself ditching my Anchor speaker and just playing music on this one when I was in the shower or in a party. It is from a company called Harman, and it is a head and shoulder above any other speaker you will find on any phone. It is on the level of a portable Bluetooth speaker. Talking about the specs, the phone has MediaTek Dimensity 8020, which for example is also on Motorola Edge 40, a phone sold around €400. At least as long as benchmarks are considered, it is better than most mid-range phones on the same price point. For example, on Antutu, it was around $789K, which is more than the A55 Exynos. The phone has UFS 3.1, which is again very acceptable for this price point. And it is on par with A55. It comes with 12GB of RAM and half a terabyte of storage, which is more than enough. It is double that what A55 is offering. So the phone also does everything than any other smartphone would do. It has NFC for card payments, it has a 50-megapixel camera, fingerprint scanner, and it has the latest Android, which is Android 14. The camera is acceptable. I've seen better cameras this year, for example, A55 or any flagship phone. I've seen worse cameras with phones coming this year too. I would say this one is somewhere in the middle. You can take decent pictures if the lighting is good. It also has a HDR mode, which improves the dynamic range of the picture if you use it. Of course, it is not the same class as the Ultra or any flagship phone, or even compared to Samsung mid-range phone. It is still very behind. There's a 4K for both front and back for video recording. There is a catch though, it doesn't have the best stabilization out there. My experience with it is that it can take gorgeous photos, but you should be more deliberate with the conditions. You cannot just throw any task at it, and sometimes the photos can be blurry if you are not careful and your hand is slightly shaking. They are using AI solutions from Infineon to improve pictures qualities, but as a former machine learning developer, I understand that with limited resources, a smaller company like Blackview cannot just use a library and create cutting-edge AI-powered images. I think the camera is serviceable, but don't expect too much out of it. The camera software is not the most advanced either, but I appreciate that it gives you the Pro mode for more controls. There is a 50-megapixel option, a night mode, a beauty mode, a macro and portrait mode, and a slow motion mode. The beauty mode can get a bit crazy if you put the slider all the way to the right side. I mean, it makes your eyes look like it is straight out of anime. I think the most important problem with the phone is that lack of software support. I really got a firmware update, so it seems the dev team is working on it actively, but there is no promise of getting any Android update in the future, so you may very well be stuck with Android 14. Security updates are another question. How often you will get them, I don't know. And this is a common problem with companies that focus a lot on hardware. Sometimes they neglect the software part. You probably will get the security patches from Google itself though. In general, I feel the operating system is not cornered out as much as other big brands like Samsung One UI. For example, the gesture navigation was not smooth, so I changed it to 3-button navigation. Some of the bugs were already resolved in the first firmware update that I got. For example, the touch response used to be horrific, but now it is totally fine. Also, as a side note, there is a performance mode in the setting that you can turn on. Another thing to note is that I also don't expect the best customer service just reading the comments on Reddit, but have no real experience, so I can't really tell. Also, another side note is that the phone is completely unlocked, which means you have root access and, for example, you can install ad blocker on it. Talking about the software, at least for thermal imaging, there is a big bonus that you get the FLIR Pro. It used to be exclusive for cat phones before they went defunct. It has some cool features. For a start, you can increase the resolution of the thermal camera. Then you can make a point that shows the temperature of the specific point. You can create a rectangle that shows the average temperature of the area. You can show the mean and maximum temperature of it. Then you can change the color palette of the heat map. Of course, it allows you to take pictures or videos or even live stream on YouTube, because why not? And you can also overlay the real camera on top of the heat map that will show you the rough edges, but it's not that accurate and it becomes a bit annoying, so I always turn it off. The operating system is very close to Android Vanilla. Surprisingly, it comes with close to zero bloatware. There is just one thing that pisses me off, and that's the Health app. I manually have to go to the running apps and kill it every time I restart the phone because I can't uninstall it or stop it. I already contacted Blackview about this problem. There's another useful app called Toolbag. It has a barometer, sound meter, and a bunch of other useful tools, but the highlight for me is the torch. It is super bright. Based on my measurements with lux meter, it is almost double the brightness of an average phone like A55, which is super useful. I stopped carrying my torch with me when I go on hiking trips because now I can just rely on this phone. It holds an alarm bell, which with combination of the loudspeaker can be very handy. One extremely nice feature that I love is the glove mode. I don't know about you, but I do a few activities that need gloves like skiing or cycling, and one of the main pain points is that I have to remove my gloves. Well, not with this one. It easily handles the situations even with my gloves on. The first time I tried it, I thought it only worked with thin gloves, but it even worked with my ski gloves, which are quite heavy. I absolutely love this feature. Also, as I said, the face unlock works great, so with the combination of the glove mode, you can just keep your gloves on. Also, the screen is 120Hz, but it's not adaptive. You can put it on 90Hz or 60Hz in the menu. The screen is Gorilla Glass 7, and for the few weeks that I used it without protective glass, it didn't catch any scratches. That said, it is still Gorilla Glass, and as the name suggests, glass, it's not the most durable material out there, so I'm not going to smash this phone to the ground or do any kind of extreme test with it, because we all know glass is glass and glass breaks. By the way, I could not find any information about this online, but I'm pretty sure the screen is actually LCD and not OLED, but I could be wrong. So who is this device for? So if you ever needed a FLIR camera, it is probably something that you want to have in your pocket. Or maybe like me, you are a bit adventurous, you go on camping, and you want a phone that is a bit more reliable than an average consumer phone. So what I'm gonna do from now on is that whenever I go camping or cycling for the weekend, and I'm gonna be in a tent and I don't have access to power outlets, I'm gonna bring this phone plus my new power bank, which has a crazy 24,000 milliampere battery capacity. Though these together are gonna last probably 4 to 5 days, and I won't have any problem. Also, maybe you're a plumber, maybe you're an electrician, you're maybe a firefighter, and you need a phone for a bit more extreme conditions with FLIR camera capabilities. So one last point is that the manufacturer informed me that the first 500 units are gonna be sold as 429, and I think it's a very good price for a FLIR camera that you get. I think these Lepton 3.5 cameras are alone $200. And everything else that you get is a proper mid-range phone with proper specs. Again, like if you want this phone, you can go to the description down below and click on the link. It's not affiliated. This video is not sponsored. I want to stress that enough. It's just information that they shared with me to share it with you. Another option that you can go for is that if you just need a phone to be reliable and be a bit rugged, then you can go for an A55 or A35. You can put a case on it and bring a power bank with yourself. And that's a viable choice if you don't need, the FLIR camera and other capabilities like the speaker. If you want to watch that video, I did a comparison of A55 and A35 in a day in the life scenario that is gonna pop up here. And I see you in the next one then. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo, and see you in the next one. Bye.